What are we capable of? How far can we push ourselves? Are we held back by our physical abilities or by our mindset? For thousands of years, humans have striven to both improve and enhance their performance. All this time, what have we been trying to achieve? The answer to most is simple. It's the basic human urge to get better, to do what no one else has done before. After all, the human mind has no reason to believe that it cannot do something until it has experienced failure. And even sometimes, when we encounter that failure, we stubbornly persist, all with the goal of improvement. But how much better can we get? South African physician and sports scientist Tim Noak examines this topic through his work. Humans haven't yet reached their limit, but there is a reason for us to stop before we reach those extremes. That reason to hold ourselves back doesn't have the slightest bit to do with our physical capabilities. It comes from our mental limit and how much mental strain we are willing to take. There are four main limits that can be seen to hold us back from our true potential: our physical limit, our mental limit, our genetic limit, and time. A few years ago, I found myself in a situation where I wasn't really confident in what my limits were. Playing basketball one day, I ran a normal play in a normal game on a normal court in a normal gym with a completely abnormal result. I'll save you from the gruesome details, but I had fallen and snapped both bones, the radius and the ulna, in my left arm. A couple of surgeries, along with a few months later, my arm had healed. It was at this point where I wondered, had I reached my limit? Before that regular Saturday, I had been at the top of my game. I was running a sub 6-minute mile, I was shooting well into the 50% range from the three-point line, and I was in as good a shape as ever. While trying to get back to that point I had been at almost 6 months prior, still with metal rods in my arm to secure the integrity of the bones, I wondered to myself if that moment had been my limit. My mind had surely hit the maximum pain tolerance level that it had ever been at. On the pain tolerance scale, I was at a 10. It felt as both a massive piano had fallen on top of me, and simultaneously the ground had moved closer toward my body. In fact, the paramedics had to bend my shattered arm back into a straighter position just so that they could put it in a brace and get me off the court. I hadn't had a major injury of this kind before. Had the time finally caught up? With my quick and unpredictable playstyle, I began to believe that it must have. I believe that is one of our primary human limits. When our mind finds that barrier that it has trouble getting over, it holds back the rest of our body from what it could potentially accomplish. Instead of me immediately wanting to come back stronger than ever, I first feared the future pain that I could potentially have to endure. Now, I know in the large scheme of things, this event doesn't seem like the end of the world. It was the realizations that came along with it that had such a huge impact on the way I think about my life. From a mental standpoint, learning to withstand pain always comes at a cost. If a runner finishes a race unharmed, could he potentially have run faster? Our brains, however, stop us from pursuing these true limits, specifically our peripheral nervous system, a system of nerves surrounding the brain and spinal cord, which moderates the amount of pain we willingly take in. The job of this peripheral nervous system is basically self-preservation, to protect the brainstem and its vital function. Some of you may have experienced whiplash before. That's our peripheral nervous system tensing up your neck to protect that spinal cord. So, in theory, most of us aren't capable to push our bodies past the barriers of our peripheral nervous system to run any faster. This is exactly what professional athletes train for. They not only train their bodies to be stronger, but they also exercise their minds to take that mental strain. So although these limits are coming from a physical source, the mental associations that come with them that are holding us back. Expanding on that scientific standpoint, physiologist Peter Weyand of the Southern Methodist University, lead author of a study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology, has new scientific evidence that has shown humans could potentially run up to 40 miles per hour. Now, that's 12 miles an hour faster than Usain Bolt's 100-meter dash top. This again brings up the question, so why don't we? The new research says the one variable holding us back is actually time. The running speed limits are set by the contractile speed limit of muscles. How quickly that muscle can contract, that's the limit on how quickly the runner's limb can apply force to the running surface. If our muscles can contract more quickly, they could get back to hitting the ground to generate more force in a lesser amount of time. We all know that time is inevitable. It cannot be changed. It is something that is innately transcribed into the universe that we live in. So could this potentially be our true limit? Genetically, some people, as we all know, are naturally athletic. Seems like no matter what sport you put them through, they'll always perform like a pro. Let's be honest, we all have that friend. But what makes them any different from anyone else? It is generally accepted among the scientific community that physical capabilities are highly polygenic. Our human phenotypes, or the set of observable qualities that we demonstrate, is heavily dependent on different polymorphisms when it comes to athletic performance. According to the research of A.G. Williams, an author from the Manchester Metropolitan University, it was found that there's only a 0.005% chance of a single individual in the world having the preferable form of all 23 polymorphisms. That means each person has a 1 in 10 quadrillion chance. And no, I didn't just push a random number of zeros. Seeing that current population is just about 7.7 billion people, these odds aren't too promising. Just like the slim odds to possess these perfect polymorphisms, it's still rare to have even one. As seen here, only 1 in 10 people on average have even one favorable polymorphism when it comes to athletic performance. Now, although you might have a slim chance to be that one in who even knows how many, your phenotype could still be promising. If you aren't lucky enough to have these perfect variations in your DNA, there are still thousands more combinations which could produce positive results. From my traumatic experience with my arm, I not only understood the mental limit that stood before me with pain, but I began to contemplate those limits that were subsequently set in stone. I was lucky enough to be born with extremely bad eyes. Actually, from my point of view, I was lucky enough to be born with extremely bad eyes. Growing up and seeing a car look like a red blur gives you a completely different outlook on life. That outlook gave me a much simpler, slower, and happier pace of life. Without even knowing how much of my world I was missing out on, I seemed to enjoy it just as much as ever. I played and gained an interest in sports, even though I couldn't see most of what was happening. So was me seeing those blurry colors my genetically inscribed limit? Maybe, but I'm not here to argue about that. I'm here to tell you that even those limits can be pushed. I remember the first time I put on my glasses. I could see the lines in the wooden table we were sitting at, a few wrinkled areas on my mom's smooth face, and for the first time in my life, I could see what was on the other side of the room. Now, that doesn't seem like much, but I cannot even begin to put into words how much these simple pieces of glass had changed my life. Now I wake up every morning, put contacts over each of my eyes, and all of a sudden, I can actually see the fine details of the world around me. Now, if that piece of plastic, no bigger than a penny, can have such a huge impact on the way I view my world, there is not a doubt in my mind that we can not only overcome these genetic limitations, but embrace them. So if pain is temporary, time is inevitable, and our potential successes are genetically inscribed, then which factor is truly holding us back? My answer is not really any of them. As far as time, humans have continuously pushed what is believed and proven as possible. Once we hit that limit, I believe we can find a way to even surpass that. With modern-day technology, genetic limitations are a thing of the past. In today's world, there are opportunities for people to accomplish more than they would have ever dreamed possible, regardless of the physical situation they have. As far as the physical aspect, humans have improved for so many thousands of years, there is no logical reason for that physical performance trend to cease. If there is one thing that has the slightest to do with holding us back from the impossible, it's our mentalities. Mentally, to do what no one else has done before, you must be willing to be knocked down and cope with the pain. Because those of us who are willing to experience that pain will be the first of us to be limitless.